Today's daf is Lamed Hey, the last daf in Masechet Rosh Hashana. On the bottom of daf Lamed Daled Amud Beis, in yesterday's shir, we discussed a statement of Rabbi Yochanan to the effect that the Chachamim chazru v'hodu l'Rabbi Gamliel, that they changed their mind, and at the end, they agreed to accept the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel, which means that the Shliach Tzibur could be motzi anyone yedei chovasa. And the Gemara on the bottom of Lamed Daled Amud Beis had raised the following stira. The contradiction was from another statement of the same Rabbi Yochanan, Hilchas Rabbi Gamliel, which implies Michlal de Pligi. If at the end of the day there was no machlokas, the Chacham accepted Rabbi Gamliel's opinion that the shots can be motzi, then why would Rabbi Yochanan feel compelled to say halacha ki Rabbi Gamliel? And here on the top of Lamed Hey, the Gemara quotes Rabbi Abba. And Rabbi Abba came up from the sea by ship, and he interpreted and reconciled the seeming contradiction in the two statements of Rabbi Yochanan. And he said the following: Modim chachamim lo Rabbi Gamliel, b'brachos shel Rosh Hashana v'shel Yom HaKippurim. When Rabbi Bar Chana had stated in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that the chachamim conceded and accepted the shita of Rabbi Gamliel, they were referring specifically to the Musaf service of Rosh Hashana and Yom HaKippurim. In those cases, the Chachamim rescinded their original position. They accepted the position of Rabbi Gamliel that the Shliach Tzibur is Motzi the Rabbim Yedei Chovasam, but that's only on Rosh Hashana and Yom HaKippurim. The other statement of Rav Chana Tzipora in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that halacha kidivrei Rabbi Gamliel Michlal de Pligi, that refers to brachos de Chol Hashana. Chachamim maintained their shita; they never conceded and removed their original opinion that for any of the tfilos and the chazaras hashatz during the course of the year, with the exception of Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, the Chachamim held that the Shliach Tzibur cannot be motzi the Rabbim Yidei Chovos, and each one has to daven his own prayer. And the Gemara right away is going to explain the difference between the brachos of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur and where the Rabbanu were choser, midivreim, they accepted Rabbi Gamliel, the shots could be motzi, the Rabbim Yidei Chovosim, but not in the case of the rest of the tefillos during the course of the year. The Gemara now asks Aini, we're on line 4 on page Lamed Hey. Is this really so that the Chachamim conceded to Rabbi Gamliel that with regard to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim, the shots can in fact be motzi all the individuals? Omar, we have a statement of Rabbi Chana Tzipora, Omar Rabbi Yochanan, halacha Rabbi Gamliel, b'brachos shel Rosh Hashanah shel Yom Kippurim. With regard to the brachos of Musaf, of both Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the statement attributed to Rabbi Yochanan is that we paskin halacha Rabbi Gamliel, meaning that the Chachamim maintain their position against Rabbi Gamliel, that the shots cannot be motzi the Rabbim Yidei Chovosim. Even with regard to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we paskin like Rabbi Gamliel, but Rabbi Yochanan is admitting by implication that the Rabbanim disagree. Ella, therefore, by virtue of this last kasha, the Gemara now offers an alternative reconciliation of the apparent contradiction in two statements of Rabbi Yochanan. And the Gemara says, Ella Omer Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak man modim. There's another Tana here whose shita has to be mentioned. He's going to be the compromise, so to speak, the middle shita between the two polar extremes of Rabbi Gamliel on the one hand and the Chacham on the other, meaning the machlokas between Rabbi Gamliel and Chacham remains an extreme machlokas. Rabbi Gamliel maintains the position that the Shliach Tzibur the whole year round could be motzi, the Mechidim Yedei Chovos. Many yochid could be motzi by hearing the tefillah of the shots. Chacham on the other extreme hold that during the entire course of the year, and even on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, each individual has to be motzi himself. He has to recite the tefillos himself, and the shots cannot be motzi. In the middle, between the two extremes, we have the sheet of Rabbi Meir. And therefore, man motiv, when we say that Rabbi Yochanan held that on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, even they are modeh to the shita of Rabbi Gamliel, he was referring to they, meaning Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir understands the following: Michal de Pligi Rabbanon, meaning the Rabbanon would disagree. They would hold that even on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, the shots cannot be motzi, the individuals yechol vasim. It's Rabbi Meir who maintains that shita, that position, and he makes that distinction between the whole year round, when, as the Chacham insists, the shots cannot be motzi the Yechidim, whereas on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, in the Musaf service, the shots can motzi the Rabbim Yidei Chovas. And the Gemara supports this position, this interpretation, based on a Bryce. What does the Bryce say? Bisanya, brachos shel Rosh Hashanah shel Yom Kippurim shliach tzibur motzi harab Yidei Chovas d'Divir Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, in fact, holds that with regard to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, in fact, the Shliach Tzibur can be motzi everybody Yidei Chovasam. Chacham omrim kishem sheshliach Tzibur chayav kach kol yochid v'yochid chayav. Meaning, the Chachamim say that every individual is chayav in his own personal obligation. He cannot be motzi, he cannot be yotzei Yidei Chovasam based on hearing the Shliach Tzibur, and the Chacham is specifically disagreeing with Rabbi Meir. And they're saying that even in the case of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, there will be no allowance for the Yachid to fulfill his obligation by listening to the Tzibur, even on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Gemara asks, Maishna Hani, how do we understand Rabbi Meir's distinction? Hani, meaning in the cases of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, those Musafin. Why is it that there, according to Rabbi Meir, you could be Yotzei through the Shliach Tzibur? Perhaps you would suggest the following interpretation. There's so many psukim, 10 psukim for Malchus, another 10 for Zechronos, a third set of 10 for Shofros, and it's very difficult. Those days they didn't have Sidurim, there was Uyad printed, it was before the printing press. You expect every last member, rank and file member of Klal Yisrael, to be able to be an expert, so that he can recite all the psukim of Malchus, Zechronos, and Shofros. That was asking too much. And therefore they made an allowance, and Rabbi Meir permitted the people in the tzibur to be yotzei with the shliach tzibur. So that can't be, says the Gemara. Ha'amar Rabbi Chananel, Amar Rav, Kevan, Sha'amar Adam b'tfilosos hatevis u'b'toroscha, Kasuv Lemar, Shuven Yitzarech. Rav already made an allowance for this problem, this challenge, that the people would not be able to master all these psukim, and 10 and 10, 30 different psukim coming from all over Tanakh. And therefore he said that when a person davens, he doesn't have to mention the psukim. All he has to recite is those words, u'b'torascha kasuv lema, in a stomach way, in a general way, without mentioning the psukim. V'shuven yitzarech, he doesn't have to recite the psukim, and he's yotzei. And therefore, once again, the question now arises, why would Rabbi Meir allow, in the cases of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, the tzibur, the members of the tzibur, to be yotzei with the shliach tzibur tefillah, if in general they accept the sheet of the chachamim the whole year round? So we wanted to say, well, they made an exception Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur because the massive amount of psukim, and therefore they were lenient, giving license to the people to be yotzei with that of the tefillah of the shliach tzibur. Why is that so? They don't have to know the psukim. That's not critical. They can just say kakasu lemon. Ella, the Gemara answers, mishum di avshi brachos. In other words, let's go back to the brachos that comprise the basic framework of the Musa service for Hashana Yom Kippur. The brachos are the brachos of Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofros, and the brachos themselves are quite complicated. They're long, and it's very easy to make a toast, to make a mistake. Not everyone is a baki, and even a baki can make a mistake. And therefore, Rabbi Meir is moda that a person can be Yotzi Yidei Chova by listening to the Shliach Tzibur in terms of reciting the brachas themselves. Forget about the psukim. Psukim, we have Rav to fall back on. All you have to recite is the Torah Kosim Lemo. But as far as the structure and the brachos themselves, and especially we could say the Chasimas HaBrachos, those require certain expertise, and you can be Yotze with the Shliach Tzibur. That's the Shita of Rabbi Meir. He mentions here that Divrei Rabbi Chananel Nemru le'inyam psuke musafet. Okay, then ach lo le'inyam malchus zichronos shofros. So Rashi initially speaks about Rabbi Chananel, and now he talks about the sugi at the end. Rav Chananel says in the name of Rav, all you need is b'toras kosim lemar, but that's only as far as the psukim of Malchus Zichronos and Shofar. But now we're talking about the brachos themselves, and with regard to the brachos themselves, there's no shortcut. You have to recite the brachos. I mean, that's critical. Now the Gemara says Gufa. Omar Rav Chananel Omar Rav. Kevin Tovim Torascha Kosav Lemar Shuv Eno Tzarech. He doesn't have to recite the psukim themselves. Sover Minei, the Bnei Yeshiva came to the conclusion Hani Mili that only applies biyachid. Aval b'tzibur lo. The Shliach Tzibur himself certainly has to recite all of the psukim. That's critical. Di Idmar, Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Echad Yachid, Echad Tzibur, Kevin Shomer Tarascha, Kosav Lema Shuven Itzar. So the Gemara actually now is backtracking. Initially, the Gemara says that the way that Rav Chananel had quoted Rav, the Torascha Kosav Lemar would not suffice for the Shmon Esrei, the Shliach Tzibur, but now the Gemara is rejecting it. Lo, this din was not accepted. The Shatz has to recite all the psukim. Lo, we cannot require the Shatz to recite all the psukim, but rather we teach that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi paskins that even the Shliach Tzibur can avail himself of this abbreviated form, the shortcut of B'toros Kosuv Lema. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Liolam Yastir Adam Tfilos V'Achach Yispalel. A person should organize his tfilos in his mind even before he gets up to daven. So therefore his tefillah will be what we call shkura b'fid, and he won't make any mistakes. Amar Rabbi Abba, Mistabra Milsa de Rabbi Lazar, with this statement of Rabbi Lazar requiring that a person be misader his tefillos before he davens, that's bebracha shel Rosh Hashana v'shel Yom Kippur v'shel Prakim, avol dekol Hashana lo. With regard to Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, where the brachos are very long and complicated, or with regard to Moadim, which are infrequent, there are only 3 of them during the course of the year, a person is not murgal bebrachos, he's not used to saying the brachos, and therefore he should be masada the brachos before Shmon Esrei. Any the Gemara asks, is this really so? Rabbi Yehuda Mesadet Slosei Umatzlei. Rabbi Yehuda the whole year round would organize his tefillos before he davens. So you see, it's not just a halacha that is limited to Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur, but applies to the tefillos of the whole year round. And the Gemara answers, Shani Rabbi Yehuda Kevan Dimitolsin Yomi, Litolsin Yomi Nabi Matzli, Kiprokim Dami. Rabbi Yehuda was not a regular davener who davened on a daily basis. Because with regard to a regular davener, we're not going to require that he take some time before davening to be Mesader his tefillah. We're not afraid that he'll get mistaken. He's well trained. But Rabbi Yehuda would daven every 30 days. How is that so? And the answer is because Rabbi Yehuda was dedicated to his Torah studies. And even though a normal person would have to daven daily, obviously, but with regard to Rabbi Yehuda, we can describe him as someone who would review his learning, his Torah studies on a regular basis. Every 30 days, he would review his knowledge of Torah. And at the end of the 30-day period, he would take a break in order to daven. So he was only davening once every 30 days. The Rif says that when the Gemara compares it Kiprokim Dami as an infrequent tefillah that comes mizman l'zman, therefore he was required to organize his tefillah. Shir Prokim L'Yitzida Tefillah Achas L'Shloshim Yom. If a person will daven a certain tefillah once every 30 days, he's got to organize it before the actual tefillah. And this din of the Rif apparently is derived from Rabbi Yehuda. He would daven once every 31 days, and therefore he was required to be Mesader his tefillah. He says, Lefi zeh, Sorach L'Sader es Tfilas Roshei Chodoshim. This might not apply in our time because we have printed Sidurim, but back in the day, they would have to be Mesader that tefillah of Rosh Chodesh, Lefi Shei Mispalin also, Ela Achas L'Shloshim Yom. Amar Rav Acha bar Avira, Amar Rav Shimon Chasida, Poter Hoyer Rav Gamliel, Afilu Am Shebesodos. Even those who could not show up in the Beis HaKnesset, they were too busy and preoccupied out in the fields with their agriculture. Rabbi Gamliel says they can be yotze through the Shliach Tzibur. Mind you, they're not in shul, and the Shliach Tzibur is reciting the tefillah on behalf of everyone, including the Am Shebesodos, and that's fine. So the Gemara now assumes, based on the statement of Rav Acha, that it was pashut that Rav Gamliel would pater those who were inside the city. His chiddush was that he paters even those who are outside the city in the sados. So the Gemara asks, "Below me, boy, hani kaimi, I mean the kaimi hacha." Are you implying that there's no need to be mashmiya the tefillah to those who are sitting, who are located within the city? Adarabah. The logic compels us to the opposite conclusion. The Shliach Tzibur should pater the people outside the city in the sados, but not those who are in the city. Because Hani Anisi, those who are out in the fields, they are considered anusim, they are mitigating circumstance, they cannot come to the shul, and therefore the Shliach Tzibur could be motzi there, chova. But when you talk about those who are within the urban area, the city area, the local law anisi, there are no mitigating force stand. They're not prevented from coming to shul. Let them come to shul. Why should we pater them up? And now the Gemara brings a proof to that. The Tani Abba Bereder of Yomi Bar Chia Am Shachore Kohanim Enom Tzrichim Bracha. Those who are in the shul, but they stand behind the Kohanim during the Birchas Kohanim, they're not included in the bracha. They will not benefit. The bracha will not be bestowed upon them. Let them come around and face the Kohanim. If it's atzlus, they're being lazy about it, we're not going to take that as a mitigating factor. But ha'am shebesodos, they can't come to the shul. They're so preoccupied with the agricultural work outside the city in the fields. As far as Birkas Kohanim are concerned, they are included in the bracha. The bracha is chal on them because they are am shebesados, they are anusim, and the same logic will apply to the shliach tzibur. If it's the am shebesados that are anusim, they can't come to daven by themselves personally in the shul, then the shliach tzibur can be motzi. The Gemara says, let's therefore reject Rabbi Acha's original position. Elki also Ravin, when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Omar, he said, in the name of Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi, who in turn was quoting Rabbi Shimon Chasida, Lo Poter Rabbi Gamliel, when Rabbi Gamliel said that the Yechidim did not have to daven, the Yotze from vicariously, so to speak, through the tefillah of the shots, Ella Am Shebesados, my taima, Mishum Ta'anise Melacha. But those who are in the city, they're not potter. They have to come to hear the tefillah themselves. And with this Rabbosai, we make a siyum on Masechet Rosh Hashana, Hadron Alecha Perek Yontif, Uslikale Masechet Rosh Hashana. Thank you for joining us for the entire Masechta, 35 blot. We're proud of our accomplishments, and that's the Mazel Tov we all get on the occasion of this siyum. And Yiratzah, that we should be zocheh to start tomorrow Masechta Tainis, and all the Masechtas that we have left, 3 Masechtas to Seder Moed, and then we have a major accomplishment. We have now finished all of Seder Moed.